It was never easy for me. I was born a poor black child. I remember the days sitting on the porch with my family, singing and dancing down in Mississippi.
Corn Pop was a bad dude. You may cut me, man, but I'm gonna wrap this chain around your head. He said, "You apologize to me?" He said, "Okay." Closed the straight razor and my heart began to beat again.
Libs want to judge everyone by the color of their skin. Libs want to judge you by the race that was given to you by God and by your ancestors for thousands of years. Ladies and gentlemen, the Supreme Court in a 6-3 decision just demolished that ruling. It is awesome. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to a live shot of your local liberal hearing that they can no longer be racist. Go.
Through all of that opposition, Donald J. Trump is now President of the United States.
Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. The Supreme Court has struck down affirmative action. This happened literally seconds ago. Let's hop on over to Clarence Thomas's concurring decision. Let's read it to you. This is hot stuff, fresh off the presses of the Supreme Court seconds ago. Ladies and gentlemen, Clarence Thomas, you dropped this king. This is from his concurring decision to Justice Roberts's majority decision on the 6-3 ruling here, striking down racism in college-based admissions. And what that means is it's the start. It's the ball rolling. This is going to now get the ball rolling on striking down race-based corporate boards, all of the race-based poison that has been injected into our society by people who just can't give up racism. And that's ultimately what the Democrat Party is. It is a party of people who just cannot seem to be giving up their racism. The Democrat Party was the party of people who owned slaves outright to begin with. We had to fight a civil war and lose 500,000 Americans in that war in order to stop Democrats from owning slaves. And then Democrats went ahead and started the KKK in order to terrorize, read the founding chart of the KKK, Republicans and free blacks. Those are the people that they sought to terrorize. Brown versus Board of Education, institutional racism. These are things that were fought against by Republicans. This is something that Democrats created. And then when they had all those things struck down in the Civil Rights Act, well, then they went ahead and created their own version of racism. But it's just reverse racism, you see. So now in college admissions, you're going to be able to give extra points to people that come from different racial backgrounds that you want to protect and promote. That is, once again, ladies and gentlemen, judging someone by the color of their skin. That is what MLK said was wrong. There is even a plaque at the base of the Lincoln Memorial that says that's wrong. And so here we have the striking down of that. MLK's most famous line, "I want you to judge me, not by the color of my skin, but by the content of their character." Well, the Supreme Court just made that true today. Clarence Thomas's opinion. Here we go. The great failure of this country was slavery and its progeny. And the tragic failure of this court was his misinterpretation of the reconstruction of the amendments, as Justice Harlan predicted in Plessy. We should not repeat this mistake merely because we think, as our predecessors thought, that the present arrangements are superior to the Constitution. This is a great opening line here. This is Clarence Thomas effectively saying, we are not better than the Constitution. Our job here is to uphold the Constitution. We are not somehow made better because we think we can come up with something better than all men are created equal. That's not how this works. We continue here. While I am painfully aware of the social and economic ravages which have befallen my race and all who suffered discrimination, I hold out enduring hope that this country will live up to its principles so clearly enunciated in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States, that all men are created equal and are equal citizens and must be treated equally before the law. Clarence Thomas, what a king. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is, of course, breaking news, breaking a few moments ago. This is really big stuff. It is, this is huge for the country. This is huge for the racial grift that the left has propagated on this nation. This is huge for people that desire America to go back to a non-racist country. Racism is wrong either direction that it points. This is obviously big for the Asian Americans who brought this lawsuit. Obviously, this lawsuit was brought by people who felt discriminated against inside of the institutions of Harvard and the University of North Carolina. This is the name of the suit was effectively these students who were Asian who were not allowed to get into Harvard and not allowed to get into North Carolina, while people who scored much lower and much worse than them on tests were able to get in based on their skin color. That's called racism, ladies and gentlemen. Those people are celebrating today.
So this case, Julie, came from a group of Asian American students. They were part of the impetus of this, saying we're actually being harmed by the way that the race is being used in admissions processes. Justice Gorsuch, during the arguments about this policy, said, what are you supposed to tell Asian American applicants who have coaches telling them, try to hide your ethnicity, it will hurt you on your application? So they've come forward and saying, in trying to help other races, you're actually disadvantaging other races. Well, today, the Chief Justice, writing for the majority, 6-3, said both of the programs, UNC and Harvard's, lack sufficiently focused and measurable objectives. They warrant the use of race, unavoidably employing race in a negative manner, involving racial stereotyping, and lacking meaningful endpoints. So he said it doesn't meet with constitutional muster, and it can't stand. It's actually hurting students in reverse.
So this is hurting students in reverse by being racist. Libs are losing their minds right now because they can no longer be racist. They can no longer promote one group of people over another. Again, let me lay this out very clearly. That is unchristian. If you are a Christian or if you are a believer in God, you will understand that there is no supreme race. There is no reason for you to judge people as anything other than gifts from God. I got some brand new ultrasounds of my new baby. Here's the brand new photo. This is baby Benny. God is in control. God has always been in control. God created man. God created woman. God created you. God loves the beautiful rainbow of his creation. That's why God created a rainbow in the first place as a promise to all of us that he loves us, among many other promises that he loves us. That's the photo of my child. My child is not any lesser or more than your child, regardless of what my child's melanin count is in my child's skin color. That is irrelevant to the soul of my new baby boy that you are seeing right there on screen. Look at that cute little face. Look at that. So it's wrong if you have black guilt. It's wrong if you have white guilt. That is from the pit of hell. That you shouldn't be judged differently because of what your skin color is. I don't know why is it that we are the people celebrating this? All the people, all the libs that marched in the street talking about systemic racism all summer, a couple summers ago, burning down the White House, all those people should be screaming with joy from the top of the rooftops right now. Because affirmative action is systemic racism. Jonathan Turley, one of our favorite commentators on Fox News, a spectacular legal mind and scholar, on saying, what's up, baby? Boom! Racism is now ruled totally and completely unconstitutional. Check it out.
That's right. It appears that it has gone the way many of us expected, particularly when we saw who the author is. Chief Justice Roberts has said for years that the best way to stop discrimination is to stop discriminating. And he has opposed racial classifications in college admissions. This is the culmination of decades of cases that were very much muddled and divided. It started in the 1970s with Bakke, when the Supreme Court technically said we are saying you cannot do affirmative action in admissions.
So what they're going to try and do is they tried to effectively get a end around, right, of the Supreme Court. Supreme Court tried to stop this in the 70s. They did an end around. Colleges judge people by their race. A good example is medical school and the varying degrees of acceptance to medical school based on your MCATs, which is a standardized test. Wouldn't you want, have you ever gone to a doctor and been like, yo, what's your skin color? Are you going to be able to treat me? What's your skin color? Hey, doc, come here. I got a chart for you. I'm going to hold that chart up against your skin to see whether you are allowed to treat me. What a sick, depraved society. These leftists, these libs, they really do have like Nazi level thinking here. The racial quotas, it's like eugenics thinking. It's so backwards. It's so glorious what's happened here this morning. Make sure that you celebrate it along with us. If you're black or Hispanic, you can effectively walk into medical school. But if you're Asian or if you're white, the threshold is so high, like it's less than 1%. Well, that's not good. I don't think that's going to create the best doctors. That clearly, I mean, just on the level, don't you care? Like, you have some traumatic injury. You're wheeled in. You're clinging to life. Are you going to look at the doctor and say like, "Hey, yo, what race are you? I'm not going to allow you to treat me." It's eugenics, Nazi level thinking. These people, the left goes full in on it. Jonathan Turley now saying that what the Supreme Court has done is effectively said that they are going to treat everyone as an individual, not as a greater member of their race. It's called blood libel. I mean, again, this is sick National Socialist level thinking. Blood libel is your entire race is the same. Because of your skin color, you're part of a race, and you are the same as every other member of that race. It's unchristian thinking. It does not account for an actual God that created you as a unique individual and that will judge you as a unique individual. Your God won't judge all black. God's not going to judge all black people. When you get to heaven, how do you think this works? I'm a Christian. This is the way that I see the world. This is my worldview. I am proud of my worldview. This is how I live. So why should we? So you're going to say that all blacks need this certain standard to get into medical school, but all whites need this certain standard and all Asians need this certain standard? Why? What kind of thinking is that? What kind of degenerate thinking is that? Also, how you gonna judge Tiger Woods? What are you gonna do there? Do you like meet him in the middle there? Because he's black and he's Asian. If you go down this path, if you somehow get through you are not a unique individual that deserves to make your own decisions and be judged by your own competency and capacity, you as a person, well, then you'd slip directly into eugenics. You slip immediately into National Socialist ideology. And I don't say the word Nazi. I say the word National Socialist. That's what Nazi stands for. It's very important. You should rub the socialists' faces in it. Rub their faces in it. Just remember that they like to say the word Nazi. Remind them that it's not Nazi. These people are National Socialists. That's just a shortening of National Socialism in Germany. You slip directly into National Socialist ideology when you do that. When you start judging people by blood libel. Oh, you're just part of this greater group. We don't like that group. Or we really like that group. We're going to give them a bunch of privileges and you none. Or the other way around. It always leads to the same place. So the Supreme Court's got a wonderful, wonderful thing here, and it's the dominant decision. Jonathan Turley, we are going to judge people as individuals. All men are created equal. Boom. A win for the Constitution today. Go.
What the court is saying is that you need to make admissions decisions on the basis of individual merit, which can include a person's past struggle with discrimination, but it also will obviously elevate other issues, like what I think is even more important, and that is economic background.
The Supreme Court, race-based college admissions must be invalidated under Equal Protections Clause and 14th Amendment. We just read you the concurring decision by Justice Thomas. I thought it was super strong. But ladies and gentlemen, this one's from Technofog. Let's read the actual decision. Universities may never use race as a stereotype or a negative. Good for them. Man, this is so strong from Justice Roberts. Obviously, Justice Roberts has let us down on a number of things. Obviously, there's only one man that we can thank for this decision, which is President Trump. Donald Trump appointed 3 justices to the Supreme Court that made the difference in all this. So let's just give credit where credit is due. But also, hey, listen, I call balls and strikes on this show. When Justice Roberts does something good, well, let's read it to you. University programs must comply with strict scrutiny. They may never use race as a stereotype or a negative. Now, what does that have the capacity to do? You know, it's weird because if you spin it around, libs would be horrified. If you spun around what they're doing to white people at universities or Asians, libs would be horrified. Somehow, even though Asians make up like 10% of the population, it's totally okay to discriminate against those people. It makes no sense. Listen, man, the moment you start going after people for their race, you become a racist. You become you go directly into eugenics and National Socialism and blood libel. It's wild. Because of the color of your skin, you don't get to get into the school because we don't like the color of your skin. Huh? Dude, I'm going to show you this New York Times tweet about this. It's just wild. New York Times screaming that they can't be racist anymore. But here we go. Let's read to you the actual decision. University programs must comply with strict scrutiny, may never use race as a stereotype or a negative. They're saying that it's a negative if you're white. That's what these laws did. That's what this did. And they weren't laws. They were just policies by the universities. Harvard and University of North Carolina in this case, but all universities, this racket across the country. They're saying, yo, you're white. You're not allowed in here. Yo, you're Asian. No, your threshold's going to be way up here. But if you're black, your threshold's way down here. That is super weird. That is a super weird way to go about life, by the way. That is the bigotry of low expectations, right? You're not allowed to achieve. Man, I've spent a lot of time with Ben Carson. I would say Ben Carson is probably the highest IQ person I've ever met. I've had the chance to meet some really intelligent individuals. Ben Carson's a super high IQ individual. And these policies totally don't, like, these policies say that Ben Carson shouldn't be allowed to do what he did. It's racism. Just call it what it is. They must therefore invalidate under the Equal Protections Clause of the 14th Amendment. Beautiful. Continuing reading, Justice Thomas's decision here. A judiciary that picks winners and losers based on the color of their skin is wrong. It's morally troubling, he says. Man, he is nuking them. Separate but equal is inherently unequal, said Brown versus Board of Education. So, it depends, says the dissent. All right. So now he's going after the dissent here, which we'll get to in just a second. Lost in the false pretense of judiciary humility that the dissent espouses is the claim to power so radical, so destructive that it requires a second founding to undo. Man, going in. Harsh. Justice Roberts addressing Ketanji Brown Jackson, the person who doesn't, Joe Biden's pick for the Supreme Court, who was picked because of her race and her gender. No. I'm not the one saying that. It's Joe Biden who says that. Joe Biden says Ketanji Brown Jackson was picked because of her race and her gender. Joe Biden, if you said you promised to appoint someone to the Supreme Court based on them being white, well, that would be a problem. So I'm trying to like engineer in my brain how that's somehow right in this direction and not this direction. Somebody explain it to me. The Supreme Court doing just an incredible job here, going through and just absolutely obliterating these arguments. The New York Times freaking out, screaming on Twitter. Read this. This is amazing. This shows you how leftists, the same people that took to the street and burned down your neighborhood and tried to kill you because of systemic racism, these people are now losing their minds because the Supreme Court struck down the greatest tool of systemic racism in society. What kind of cognitive dissonance you got to have to be a leftist these days? I mean, really, what kind of Play-Doh your brain got to be? I mean that. The Supreme Court rejected affirmative action at Harvard and UNC. The major ruling curtails race-conscious college admissions in the United States. all but ensuring that elite institutions become whiter and more Asian and less black and Latino. Hold up. Let me just ask you a question here. New York Times. Why do you care so much? Meaning, why do you care so much about the racial purity of colleges? Why? Because this seems like the New York Times is committing one of the gravest sins that you can commit in this country or of a moral people, which is blood libel. Blood libel is saying that we are simply going to judge you based on the color of your skin. So the New York Times is bemoaning and screaming and screeching that college campuses will not reflect certain skin colors that they prefer. Take the color out of it. That's what the New York Times is saying. New York Times, same racist editors of the New York Times, were probably arguing in favor, and most likely always arguing in favor of like Brown versus Board of Education or institutional segregation at the turn of the century, right? So how is it any different? They've just gone directly back into exactly the default for the Democrat Party. The default for the Democrat Party is we wish to have the capacity, the power to promote one racial group above another. The end. Put it on a bumper sticker. That's what they're screaming about here, ladies and gentlemen. And that's exactly what Joe Biden did. Joe Biden said, I will nominate a person to the Supreme Court, not based on her qualifications, his or her qualifications. He said he's nominating a woman, although he has no idea what that is. I'm waiting for someone to actually ask Joe Biden what that is. Be great. Wouldn't that be awesome? Hey, Joe, what's the definition of a woman? Corn Pop was a bad dude. Joe Biden saying, I'm going to pick a person based on the color of their skin because I want the color of their skin to be the key nominating factor for my Supreme Court pick. He said it. Okay? Somebody explain to me, some smart person, I don't claim to be some super smart person. Somebody explain to me how this ain't racist.
I will select a nominee worthy of Justice Breyer's legacy of excellence and decency. While I've been studying candidates' backgrounds and writings, I've made no decision except one. The person I will nominate will be someone with extraordinary qualifications, character, experience, and integrity. And that person will be the first black woman ever nominated to the United States Supreme Court.
Let's go ahead and check in on Joe Biden's affirmative action pick to the Supreme Court. How's it going for her?
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
Okay. Yeah, got it. All right. I'm not a biologist, you see. Says the person who's nominated because she's a woman, right? The person who's nominated to protect reproductive health care for women.